For being here tonight. We are so lucky to have Ethan Chamberlin and Ryan Bell with us from Matterkind to talk programmatic with us tonight. Let me give you a little background on Ethan. First off, he's been with Matterkind, which used to be called Cadreon, for 8 years, with responsibility over addressable strategy and campaign activation teams in Detroit and Chicago. So during this time, Ethan has overseen addressable digital, television, audio, out-of-home efforts across a diverse roster of clients, including ALDI, Quicken Loans, FCA, Nationwide, Cox Business, Tyson, Hillshire. Prior to joining Matterkind, Ethan worked at Starcom, leading strategic media planning teams across numerous brands, including Chevrolet and Saturn. In addition, he led holistic budget setting and print planning efforts for all of GM. Well, that was back when we had print planning for all of GM before pivoting his focus to digital while leading Chevrolet. Throughout his career, Ethan has prided himself on delivering award-winning work while maintaining a relentless focus on his client's business and objectives. Next up is Ryan Bell, and these two guys have, they've been in the business a little bit. I've got them outpaced just a wee bit, but they're just good, solid people in this business. Ryan, Senior VP of Strategy and Activation at Matterkind. Ryan has been with Matterkind for 10 years. Responsible for addressable strategy and campaign activation teams in Detroit. During this time, Ryan has overseen addressable digital television, audio, out-of-home efforts across a diverse roster of clients, including ALDI, FCA, Shark Ninja, and TGI Fridays. Prior to joining Matterkind, Ryan worked at Microsoft within their Xbox division, leading strategic media sales across various OEM brands, including Ford and GM. Throughout his career, Ryan has remained focused on providing best-in-class service while providing custom solutions to help clients meet and exceed their business objectives. You guys, super excited to hear what you have to say. Tell us a little bit about programmatic.
All right, thank you. Here, let me share our screen real quick. Everyone see that?
Yep.
We're good?
Perfect.
Okay. Okay, thanks. So again, thanks for having us. Thanks for everyone that's able to join tonight. Ethan and I will kind of split this up and take you through, but I'll get right into sort of where we're going to take you through. So we'll touch a little bit on ourselves and sort of our background, our paths that got us to where we are today. I'll talk a little bit about, the programmatic arena, describe sort of what programmatic is in general. We'll talk about sort of the landscape and the things that go into it. I'll touch on the different types of inventory and marketplaces that we use to activate our campaigns with. And then Ethan will sort of round it out with the Matterkind overview and talk about sort of our shift from sort of a programmatic focus to more of an addressable approach. So that's kind of the layout. So I'll let Ethan kick off here with sort of his background and path.
So Ron kind of touched on our experience with our bios, but we thought it'd be helpful to have you give you a sense of how we got to where we are in our careers. Ron and I were just reminiscing about when we'd met, and think it goes all the way back to the first logo at the top left of the page there at B&B, which no longer exists, but used to be right at the corner of Long Lake and Woodward and Bloomfield Hills. I started there and stayed with the same company for 18 years, which is very unheard of, especially in today's marketplace, but had 7 different business cards in the time I was there with different companies, with mergers, acquisitions, et cetera, that occurred. Finishing out with a long stint on the GM business, as Ron mentioned, with leading the Chevrolet account at Starcom prior to it moving over to Cara. At that point, I kind of was considering what I wanted to do next and whether I wanted to stay with traditional media and continue down the path with auto or try something different. And the opportunity presented itself at what was called Media Brands Audience Platform at the time. And it was this vision of bringing together the search, social, digital, all into a single data stream and being able to analyze data at the consumer level, which turned out to be significantly ahead of its time, and we didn't really have the capabilities of doing it at that point. But it's really what has led to Matterkind. So I think we went through Magna Global, Cadreon. Ryan has a different Cadreon logo on there because he was at Cadreon earlier than I was. But the vision of what Mediabrand's audience platform represented 8 years ago is really what's led us to Matterkind. And it's the connection of disparate data streams across multiple media outlets and being able to analyze those and investigate them at the consumer level, and therefore make the experience better for our clients' consumer base.
All good?
Yep.
Let's see. It's not advancing. Slide's stuck. Hold, please. Of course. Is it still on the same slide?
Yeah, it's still stuck on the same one.
All right.
Yeah, you might have to pop out of screen share and then pop back in.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Get back to this here. Okay, there we go. So you'll see some similar logos here. Ethan and I have definitely spent some time working together over the years. I actually started back in '98, dating myself now, at a little company in Ann Arbor called Beyond Interactive. I actually answered a newspaper ad for digital advertising. I wasn't even really sure what it was at the time. So kind of interesting there. And then I also had a long sort of stint within the automotive realm, Media Edge, which later became Team Detroit, or part of Team Detroit. I worked on the Lincoln Mercury brands. Sorry, those are my dogs. And then I also made the jump over to PlanWorks. Ethan and I worked on different brands. I worked on Cadillac and Hummer during my stay there. And then I jumped back to Team Detroit to work on the overall Ford brand. And then kind of finished out with Microsoft, which was kind of different for me. I made the shift from the agency to the sort of the sales side, but it was you know, a good experience for me. I was focused on their Xbox offering, so an interest of mine. So it was really sort of a cool area to be involved with. And then from there, I was actually interviewing with Universal McCann at the time, and a guy that I knew from Beyond Interactive wanted to talk to me about this new thing they were starting. He called it Cadreon. He gave me sort of a brief background on it and asked if I'd be interested in trying that instead of the UM path. And I said, I'm not really sure what you're talking about, but it sounds great. So I jumped in, and that was 10 years ago, and have kind of you know, been part of that ever since. So that's kind of my story there. So now we'll jump into programmatic and give sort of a high level overview of sort of everything. Obviously we're somewhat limited on time, so we won't have time to go into all of the areas. There's a lot of areas like, you know, data and you know, tech and other areas that we could go into, but we just wanted to give you sort of a brief overview of the programmatic space, and then talk about you know, how we're seeing that sort of evolve with the shift to Matterkind, as I mentioned. So back in the day, this keeps getting further away the more I've talked about this slide, but early days, you know, if you wanted to make a buy with a publisher or a website, you know, you gave them an insertion order, you locked in on how many impressions you wanted to buy. It was a certain rate, and it was, a very one-to-one sort of relationship and setup. As we know, that's typically not the way it works today. As we got towards the end of the 90s and into the 2000s, there was an explosion of internet content and consumers. We moved from hundreds of sites to hundreds of thousands of sites. The impressions, got into the millions or hundreds of millions. And then, we also had other formats evolve and appear, such as mobile and things like that. So the landscape kind of blew up, and it became, challenging to sort of navigate it and find ways to really take advantage of the partners that were out there. Ad networks were sort of the first start at that, but even that, it wasn't a holistic way to sort of to make buys and sort of manage across, multiple partners and or inventory sources. So programmatic came into play, and through the use of technology and platforms, it provided us a way to sort of access, any and all inventory and content across the web. So as I mentioned, programmatic is sort of the buying method that enables us to reach, as we say, the right person at the right time, at the right price. Programmatic is, from an approach standpoint, it's a great way to maximize and your buys and be efficient, sort of in a broader sense. Strategy, it enables advertisers to deploy more complex media plans with ease. You're not having to pull together crazy amounts of partners and plans and those sort of things. And then again, the execution with the technology, it's just a better and more seamless way to activate. So I think in its early days, programmatic was seen sort of as, as the term efficient was thrown around. I think it was also sort of seen as maybe a cheaper way to sort of activate. And that's not always the case. So that was sort of something that we had to, dispel. It is it can be a single platform. There are multiple platforms that we'll talk about to activate. But again, it is a way for advertisers to get a single view, across channels and across tactics, in that sense. So I'll take a breather there. Michelle, I don't know if we wanted to just keep rolling through this, or if there are questions, on the sections.
Yeah, let's keep rolling, and then we can answer questions at the end.
Okay.
Thanks.
So now we'll talk about sort of the landscape and how it works. So programmatic, is sort of comes to life through auction-based buying or real-time bidding. So this is sort of the process that we use to identify impressions across the web, and it's done in sort of a eBay auction type format where advertisers can pick and choose the impressions that they want to target based on who they're looking to reach, what sort of data they're using to identify those impressions, etc. There used to be only sort of one way in terms of the auction, which was the second price auction, which is similar to the eBay kind of model, which is where multiple people would be bidding on an impression. I could bid $7, somebody bids $5, I end up winning the impression. but I would only pay a penny more than the second price. More recently, they've introduced first price auctions, which is just that. It's, you know, the highest bidder wins. So that kind of eliminates people from sort of inflating bids and you know, allows people to really sort of decide what the value is on certain impressions and audiences that they want to pay for and target. So this is kind of a visual sort of how it works. So a user initiates a website visit. So you go to your favorite website, you're checking out some content. Obviously there's banners and ads on those pages. So the impression is announced within the auction. The impression is evaluated by those bidding on it. So does it reach the target that you're looking to reach? Is it the specific audience? And if so, then the bids are placed, and then the auction decides, you know, who the highest bidder is, and then obviously the winning bid ends up getting the ad on the page. Seems like a lot, but that all happens within milliseconds within the platforms. It's a pretty crazy process, but that's quickly how it works in terms of RTB. So this is just, again, more of a visual of what I kind of was talking about with first price, second price auction. This being an example of 4 advertisers that are bidding on the same impression. You know, we see a lot of advertisers that tend to go after similar audiences and that kind of thing. So, you know, again, the page loads, the impressions are bid on, and in this case, CVS being the highest bidder would end up serving the ad and getting the impression. So that's kind of how the real-time bidding. Now I'll touch a little bit on sort of some of the terminology and how we activate. So advertising wouldn't be advertising without a bunch of acronyms. We love acronyms, RTB being one of them, DSP being another. So the demand side platform, we've got some visuals here to help sort of tell the story, but think of that as sort of your command center. So you know, as a company, we are agnostic with our DSPs. We work across many DSPs. You may have heard of some of them, like Google has their DV360 as their DSP platform. The Trade Desk, MediaMath, there's a bunch that are available in the market. You know, they vary on performance and what they can deliver, but we, again, keep sort of an open approach to which ones we utilize for our clients. But this is where the buys are set up. The platforms is where the teams are setting up the buys, loading in the targeting, setting the bids, and then activating the campaigns, you know, to reach our audiences and deliver on the campaign. The other side of that is the sell side platform, or an SSP. So this is how all of the inventory partners and publishers plug into and get you know, get seen within the DSPs. So we're using a mall visual here, but again, they are able to plug into the platform, and then the buyers on the other side can determine, again, what sources they want to target, or if they want to, you know, keep things more general, and then they can sort of cater their inventory choices based on what's available. We'll talk a little bit about the different types of ways to access the inventory. So we'll touch here on just that and some of the marketplaces that are available. So Open Exchange is sort of your general activation across the web. So this is reaching, you know, any inventory source available. This is definitely the most efficient way to do it. It offers the biggest scale and allows, full optimization across, inventory and placements and those types of things. In terms of limitations, you are accessing sort of broad inventory pools, so you can't necessarily drill into, individual publishers and things like that in terms of optimizations. In some cases, you may not be getting the ideal inventory or placement contextually that you're looking for. And then from a priority standpoint, publishers have sort of their inventory waterfalls, where direct buys sort of take precedent, and then it kind of works its way down from there. Open exchange is typically lower on that waterfall. So again, lower priority, but it's a real efficient way to get some broad reach for your campaigns. So kind of the next step down from that is what we call private marketplace, or PMPs. And this is sort of getting into more sort of direct publisher relationships. There are no ingoing commits though in terms of spend. You're sort of setting up a handshake deal with the publishers. You agree on pricing ranges and the type of inventory that will be made available, and then you can access it through the platform, but it's a more siloed sort of buy. You can choose an individual publisher to work with, or you can even pull in multiple publishers at a given time, and then optimize publishers out as performance dictates. So it's a little more expensive than the exchange. Again, the scale drops a little bit here because you're sort of picking and choosing where you're activating. But if there are key partners or content that your clients want to be focused on, this is a great way to do it, and still fairly efficient. And then the last one is programmatic guaranteed. So this is sort of a step beyond that, where you're actually locking in a set price, the set number of impressions, and pricing with the publisher. So it's sort of a direct deal. It's still activated through the platforms, but it's a way to sort of guarantee inventory. If there are again, like priority or key partners that the clients need to be in front of or need to be on those sites, this is a way to guarantee that you're doing that. It is a little bit more expensive. It is limited on scale, but again, it allows that specific targeting and reach that clients may be looking for. And that's kind of the quick overview. Like I said, there's some other areas, like data and optimizations and things like that we don't really have time to go into today. Maybe we can do another session down the road. But now Ethan will sort of talk about Matterkind as a company, and sort of moving from the term programmatic, and he'll talk about the evolution into sort of the addressable approach that we now are focused on.
Thank you, Ryan. And I think one of the other things that we didn't really get into in great detail in the first part is the expansion of the outlets that are available via programmatic / addressable means, so that it's been thought of traditionally as digital, but now most audio, broadcast, out of home, even direct mail solutions are available via a programmatic or household addressable fashion. So as you jump to the next page there, Ryan. One of the things, having been in the programmatic industry from the beginning with Cadreon, and as Ryan mentioned, the formation early on of the solution for IPG, we realized that as the marketplace has evolved, it's really not working as hard for our clients and for consumers as it should be. That our company was born out of the realization that that marketplace really wasn't serving the needs of either side, because there'd become this over-reliance on technology. And technology was optimizing towards the lowest cost per whatever it may be, depending on the client. It could be CPM, it could be cost per action, it could be cost per view. But it doesn't necessarily take into account the quality of the inventory, the frequency of the overall campaign, or at the user level, or the overlap that exists within a client's campaigns. So that overlap could lead to enormous frequency levels against a small group of consumers, which is a horrible consumer experience for that brand and impacts the consumer perception of that brand. You can jump to the next slide there, Ryan. So we started this evolution really 2 years ago with the acquisition of Acxiom, which is now the data foundation for IPG. And a year ago, we formed Kinesso as part of the IPG holding company, and it spun out of Media Brands. Historically, we were part of Media Brands. And with the launch of Kinesso, all of the data and technology teams and the legacy Cadreon team moved outside of Media Brands and formed this Kinesso organization. That team is responsible for providing proprietary software solutions, doing all of our reporting, developing insights, and then we have the activation layer, which is now Matterkind. So as part of the launch of Matterkind in May, we made a conscious decision to move away from programmatic, which as Ryan touched on, is a buying method, and to move into addressable audience strategy. So everything we do now is about identifying and serving to a specific audience and less about the focus on cheap or cost per. That's clearly still something we're optimizing to, but it doesn't start the conversation. It's part of the reporting and once we get deeper in with the clients. The programmatic has now been moved into our corporate swear jar, and that jar is filling up pretty quickly since we've been around a while and all of us are used to using the term programmatic, but we get slapped on the wrist with anytime we use it on one of our all hands meetings or broader team meetings. Go ahead, Ryan. So the shift to addressable with our overarching approach eliminates the silos that have existed historically for us. So as Ryan talked about, we work agnostically with any partner in the space, but historically those partners have been focused on mobile or display or video, and now with TV and out-of-home SSPs that are available to us as well. We look at that and try and eliminate all of those silos with the technology that's been built in-house, so that we can take a look at a holistic campaign across search, social, digital, TV, out-of-home, and look at the overall impact and performance that we're seeing across those channels and optimize across those channels as well, so that they're not siloed and the performance doesn't have to be looked at an individual outlet level. Go ahead to the next one there, Ryan. So with this shift in mentality, we've moved away from channel-centric and think about it more as opportunities for touch points with our clients' consumers. This holistic view gives us the ability to better control the consumer experience and make better use of the client's dollars. We're able to place a global frequency cap on it at the user level so that they're not seeing the ad 250 times in a month. We can set that cap at 30 across all outlets. We can focus on investing their money in increased reach for a brand by suppressing the audiences that have already been reached or an audience that's already made it to a brand's website, suppress them and reinvest those dollars on finding new people to engage with the client. And it gives us consistent measurement on KPIs across all outlets. And then lastly, just kind of how we think of ourselves internally as part of Matterkind now is that we're still all about the people. We have hands-on campaign managers that are optimizing all of the campaigns. We're not relying strictly on managed service buys or allowing the algorithms to drive. We have teams that are fine-tuning those algorithms on a daily basis. Their work is enhanced by proprietary technology that Kinesso team has built for us. So there's tools and platforms internally that our teams use on a daily basis, which simplify the workflow, but also allow us to push optimizations out from a centralized dashboard versus having to go into every platform and make those by hand. And ultimately, Matterkind is now looked at within the walls of the agency team as kind of the activation arm for audiences, whether that's a specific first-party audience that a client pushes to us or one that the agency teams help to develop and collaborate on that gets activated via Matterkind. We are the activation arm for those teams when it comes to that defined audience group. I think that brings us to the end. So thank you for your time, and Michelle's going to open it up for Q&A.
So you guys, that was that was a very quick overview of not only the industry getting started, but taking it to the next level. And are you guys, is Matterkind the first group that's doing this addressable across multiple channels, like even direct mail? That's super surprising for me.
I think we like to think of ourselves as the first. We don't see the inner workings of the other holding company teams to know. And I think there are multiple companies that claim to have the first trading desk, us being one of them. But some of it's behind a curtain, and we don't necessarily know the partnerships or relationships that the other holding companies have established. But the direct mail one's interesting. It's a company that guys who started in the digital space and realized that there's still a tremendous amount of money in the direct mail realm that isn't taking advantage of the technology or audience targeting that's available.
Sure.
And we've partnered with them. They've essentially built a DSP for direct mail where you can go in, push an audience from Axiom to the platform. You can build the creative in the platform, push it to a client for proof. Client approves it, and you can ship and mail within a couple of days.
That's amazing. Super fast.
That's one where if you think of cheap as the entry point for programmatic a few years ago, direct mail is never going to be as efficient as digital, but from a cost per piece that gets shipped, it's still more efficient than the traditional means of printing and mailing direct mail.
In terms of whatever the KPI is, right? Whether it's
yeah, just on a cost per piece that gets shipped, it's 20 to 25% less than traditional models.
Okay. All right. So we have some questions.
We sure do. Let's start with this one. I was recently introduced to programmatic marketing and found myself getting overwhelmed quickly. Totally understandable. What is the one thing you want your clients to know about programmatic and addressable strategies to set them up for a successful campaign?
You want to field that one, Ryan, or you want me to?
Sure. I'm just trying to think of in terms of the clients. I mean, I think it's really just like, you know, working with the clients and, you know, figuring out, you know, who their true target is, you know, how they've reached those audiences in the past and how we could potentially, you know, improve upon that moving forward. I think it's just important to lay out, you know, the targeting and the needs and the business outcomes that they're looking for.
I would say, like with any campaign, the ideal campaign starts with a briefing document. They very rarely exist. So it's that upfront dialogue with the client and the agency team on who is the audience, where are we receiving the audience, what's the KPI for the campaign, so that that's all established up front and there's no disagreement on performance partway through. Even with best efforts, that still occurs, or a client can decide to change a KPI partway through a campaign, which then changes all the optimization learnings that that campaign's had to date. You're essentially hitting reset on the algorithms.
With technology moving as fast as it is, you guys, how often do you think you have to educate the clients on?
Yeah, I was just going to say that we do a lot of education sessions with the clients as well, just to keep them up to speed in terms of the offerings and you know, the different technologies or partners or data sources, you know, all those things. I mean, we're doing that on a regular basis with the clients. So I think it's really, again, keeping the dialogue going and you know,
And that was really the reason I was brought into MAP at the time. Was Ryan and team were in charge of actively running campaigns for clients and managing the client relationship and those campaigns, and they were spending half their time on the education sessions. So I came in as I forget what my title even was, but I was the training person who worked on the education both with clients and agency teams on the programmatic landscape, and I didn't have any client oversight at all. I just realized there was a need for that role in the organization, and we had a team across all of our markets.
But we are seeing, you know, as things progress, I mean, there are clients that are quite knowledgeable within the space that you may not need to do as much of that educating with, but there are definitely clients that need it as well. So,
And one of the more recent waves has been clients taking all these services in-house. That we have some clients who have done that, and we have a service offering where we'll kind of provide that consultative service for them as they build out their own solution in-house to stand up their own programmatic team. Now, oftentimes they end up hiring a few of our people away who have the history and background on how their campaigns have run, but I think it's a natural progression as clients look to continue to try and push efficiencies, and they realize that some of these capabilities could be done internally.
Oh, he had a follow-up question. So where can I get my hands on some of these educational materials? So again, I also personally find programmatic in this world overwhelming. I've been away from the agency for a few years, but yeah, are there some resources out there where if you want to stay in the know that are useful?
My first answer was going to be come join Matterkind and we can walk you through.
There you go. There you go.
But I would say Google has probably the best easily accessible online training materials that you can. It's basically a self-guided certification for DV360.
Mm-hmm.
Open to everyone. The trade desk has one that's far more involved and takes significantly more time to get through, but our hands-on traders prefer the trade desk as their primary platform if they got to choose. So I think that's one that's worth spending some time with and educating yourself with as well.
And I believe you guys probably know this, at the beginning of the pandemic, and we were looking as an organization to provide tools to our members to help them, you know, stay up to speed. The trade desk was offering some of their tools that typically you had to pay for free, and I think it was through the end of this year.
I think that's correct.
Yeah. So if anyone's interested, shoot me a note. I know that we were promoting it in the Adcraft. It was probably about 5 months ago or so, but you know, can certainly give you the link or information if you need, if you're interested in that.
Yeah, they both have good, strong local teams who'd be willing to set people up with that.
Someone else asked, can you give an example of a touch point? So again, we've talked a little bit about, you know, we're talking digital broadly. You mentioned direct mail, but you know, as you're taking a step back, your client wants to, here's who I want to target. I think I want to target. Can you help me dive a little bit deeper into that? Here's how I think I want to do it. You know, are there other examples of touch points?
That's really, it's an impression, whether that's via mobile device, a CTV outlet, or whether it's via direct mail. That's how we kind of look at all of those, as they're collective touch points, not the channel approach that we historically would have taken. I think the challenge we face with a lot of clients in that approach, though, is that they tend to have people assigned to those buckets of money internally. So that the ideal client for us with some of our tools allows for fluidity between budgets. So that you could move 50% of your video budget to display or to search if that's what's performing most richly for you. And most clients don't have or provide that flexibility to the teams yet. I think some of them are on the path, but it has more to do with structural alignment than anything else.
Yeah.
So I know you guys were there early on with addressable television. How has that changed in the last few years?
Scale is the single biggest thing. It used to be a couple of partners and 20 million households, and now it's at the addressable household level, it's over 130 million homes.
Wow.
So that's been a big piece of the growth for us. It's people who want to take what they were doing in broadcast and essentially narrowcast that they might only be interested in 25% of the US as their audience. Why spend to buy everyone when they can be, yes, they might pay a slightly higher CPM, but you'll more than offset that efficiency gain with the targetability and the accuracy. So I think that's been the single biggest thing. Obviously, with this year, with the growth of CTV and all the streaming services, that's added far more opportunity for us as well. I think that the dynamic's still in play with TV dollars, though, for the upfronts. That most clients still invest on an annual basis and aren't yet ready to pull back from that with a lot of their dollars.
It does seem like a lot of the bigger players also have addressability platforms, which probably get involved in the upfront in some way, right? Where, you know, we'll buy this much, but, you know, we want this.
Yeah, and this year, as part of the upfront negotiations, our New York team worked with the New York investment teams to essentially create a portion of the upfront that was going to be bought in an addressable fashion.
Nice.
So not every client buys into that. Some only care about brand awareness and they want to reach everybody so that they want to keep those big national buys going. But the ideal is a mix of kind of the broad reach and then using the tools to supplement reach to the lighter TV viewers and make sure we're getting more consistent reach across all tiers of the audience.
So for some of our folks here who are, you know, just getting started in the business, any words of wisdom for them in terms of programmatic? What should they be doing in their careers right now, either prepare themselves for programmatic or maybe, and I'm sorry, I'm saying programmatic, preparing them for yeah, you can't, addressable platforms, et cetera, but preparing them for their careers to maybe move into that space in some way.
I'll let you field that one, Ryan. I've been talking.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of like preparing for it, I mean, it's really like sort of doing the homework, I guess. I mean, reaching out to, you know, the Googles and the trade desk and getting some of the background and knowledge, and then, you know, looking for opportunities within the space, you know, either within your current agency or if you're, you know, looking to join an agency. I mean,
it's not something that's really taught in college coursework.
Yeah.
So I think Michigan State now offers a programmatic class, and I was telling Ron and Michelle at the beginning that they reached out to us a year and a half ago to help teach that class because they didn't have anybody who had the hands-on practice with what goes into optimizations. So we sent 2 people up there to help teach a couple hours of the course, and it worked out for us because we got a couple resumes out of it that have turned into great employees. But I think it's something that you have to be a self-starter after college to learn about it, because you're not going to get it out of a textbook.
Good. Well, and any other questions out there? And if not, that's okay too.
Lauren Pogue's sitting there waiting to ask us a real.
Oh, yeah. She's got 2 or 3 teed up, I think. So, but you guys are awesome. Like I said at the beginning, you guys are stellar performers in our industry and have been leading the charge on this whole front for a long time. And a lot of people look up to, you know, where you guys are going and feel that that's, you know, driving the industry in many respects. And we certainly appreciate you educating the clients, so then when salespeople go in to talk to them, they actually know, what we're trying to sell. So, but so I want to say thanks to Ryan Bell and Ethan Chamberlin from Matterkind. You guys are awesome. Let me tell you a little bit about what's going on next week for Advance. The schedule is we'll be talking with Casey Herbis, who's the CMO at Quicken Loans. Is that one of your fine brands, I might add?
That is one of our excellent local clients.
There you go. There you go. Well, Casey is a little bit irreverent, and I'm sure he'll be that way next week too. It's sure to be a real treat. And in fact, Ethan, Ryan, if you guys want to sit in next week,
we may make it a guest appearance.
Yeah.
We appreciate you scheduling us before Casey.
Yeah.
You know what? That is probably a good place to go. So, But with having said all that, Michelle, do you have any other Adcraft housekeeping?
No, we're good.
All right, so next Tuesday for Tuesday Talks and next Wednesday for Advance. Thanks, everybody, for showing up tonight. Ryan, Ethan, thank you. And
Thank you.
good night.
Thanks for having us.
All right, have a good
Appreciate
evening.
it.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.